Ladies and gentlemen, K-Kim here. Welcome to the daily update. Hope you guys had a good day trading today. Market is up about 0.9% on the S&P. We did see the small caps rallying today. Small caps up close to 4%. I think the banks are close to 2%. Nasdaq is pretty much flat today. So kind of a, we saw that some of the extended sectors such as the Nasdaq is lagging today. As you can see right here, so Dow is up about 1% there, and the Nasdaq is up, I think Nasdaq is up about 0.5%, and the Russell 2000 is up I think close to 4%. Yeah, 3.5% here, as you can see right over here. And I think also transport is also up, I think close to 2%. Semiconductors down. So semiconductor and the Nasdaq's been the leader last several months. So semiconductors down. You can see the banks is up about 2% today. But anyway, so this is where we closed yesterday. We initially saw a big gap up, about 1% there. We hung around a little bit. We're still kind of stalling in that resistance area. This is the first hour, a little bit of fluctuation. But next hour, what happened was on the second hour, we continued higher, pushed higher. And let's call that, you can see transport, about 3% there. So transport, the banks, and the small caps is what led the market today. But let's call that gap was filled. There's a very tiny bit open, very little bit. But that's just too little, and we're just gonna call this one the gap has been filled. So so the gap got filled, and from that point on, you see that we did see a sell-off happen during the midday or second and third hour, right? So that's the second hour. Gap got filled, and then came down. That gap fill acted as resistance instantly, right? And then the third hour, we continued lower. Remember, there was a gap here, right? That gap got filled. I tweeted out on the third hour that gap got filled. The oscillator was, rallying. The oscillator was separating. The oscillator was continued to curl up. And I've anticipated that level is going to act as support. You can see there was actually a little gap left here too. The gap wasn't completely filled either. You see that this is where it closed. That's where it opened. So there's tiny gap that's open. I'm not going to annotate it. We're just going to call it. It's just such a small gap. We're just going to call that it has been filled. So we threw that hammer-like candle there, showing us that there was some dip buying activities. Just right when the gap got filled, right? The gap, the top gap, the down gap was filled, and then it came down, right? The bottom gap was filled, and then it got back up. That's why tracking gaps is very, very important, because without the up gap today, this level would have not been a support, because there's no really known support, you know what I mean? But because of this gap up, this morning, buyers deployed that gap just in case you see a sell-off happening, which we did see that. It's not really a sell-off. I mean, that was just, I don't know, 0.3%, 0.4% fluctuation. I really don't want to call that a sell-off. But a pullback, right? Pullback, intraday pullback. And then the gap got filled. We continue higher. There was a third, that's a third hour. That's a fourth hour. We continue to push higher. That's the fifth hour. And then sixth hour, the last hour, we pushed to the recent highs here. And then we pull back. So ending the day with the 0.9% gain today. Overall, it's a positive day. And at this point, that gap over there is completely filled, right? That gap, we've been talking about this entire time. This gap right here, we're going to call that gap has been filled entirety of it. So that's exactly what the buyers wanted to see. It took a while. It took about a month to fill that gap. But remember, in mid-June, early June, we did see that island reversal gap. That made things hectic for the buyers for about a month now. So the big gap that's remaining is up here now. That's where the buyers are eyeing on right now, which is this gap right here. Back in late February, right? Late February, we saw that big gap down, right? So that's that 333 and 325 area, and the buyers are eyeing on that, and we will get there. And the whole entirety of that level, this level is going to act as resistance. So there are a couple things the buyers can do. Is that buyers can, we got a little bit of more room to move to the upside here. Right away, the gap area is going to act as support, that gap area, that first area right here, because this is such a big gap. And then the top of the gap, obviously this entire thing is going to act as support or act as resistance. If buyers don't thrust higher and, piercing through all of this as quickly as possible, right? If not, we start kind of going off, fizzling, right? If we see that up and down, kind of a, reluctant move to the upside in this gap area, things are going to get hectic for the buy. We will see shenanigans. We will see up and down move. So looking at the, obviously we're now the gap has been filled. So I have to give benefit of the doubt to the buyers in the short term, mid term, long term as of today. All terms are bullish at this point. Looking at the oscillator here, we're not overbought yet. We still have room to move. That means buyers are not tired. Buyers got room to move here, right? That's maybe another day of bullish run. Not to mention that we do have higher lows, and you remember what happened last time. Last time when we saw higher lows on my oscillator, that was mid-May to early June. We saw that 17% move from like 270 to 320. Right? That was the last time we saw that higher lows here. So now buyers are switching gears. We're getting to second and third and fourth gear. And when we do see higher lows happening on the oscillator, it will go all the way back up to the overbought level. Many times, high probability, we will get all the way back up, and buyers will maximize. Buyers will maximize and utilize this energy because buyers are not tired. Again, buyers are not tired. So they're tired. So they're going to continue to push higher. So only thing at this point is, how are the buyers going to, deal with this big gap up? Are we going to see some big bullish move and go up and fill it very, very fast? Maybe, I don't know, could be Thursday, Friday, maybe early next week. Or are we going to get up here slowly rather, and then we're just going to use up all the energy, and then my oscillator is going to get to the overbought level, and then if the gap does not get entirely filled, and if, let's say the price got up to like maybe 325, 326, and then my oscillator hits overbought, we will see a pullback because now buyers are getting tired. But then buyers are going to come back a little bit and then hit that support again, and they're going to try hard again. And then we may continue higher, right? I think that's what buyers preparing to do, is they're building energy. They're shifting gears from second, third, fourth gear to go faster and faster to get that momentum going to fill this entire gap as quickly as possible. The faster the buyers fill this gap, the better it's going to be. We start lagging in somewhere in this vicinity, bears are going to come and try to take advantage of that situation. So I would expect, unless you see some fast bullish runs, we see bulls kind of like, kind of like being lethargic in some of these levels. You will see bears trying to take advantage of this situation. But keep in mind, overall, we have a bullish momentum here. So even though bears going to try to bring it down, buyers going to try to push right back up. They're just wait until they get their momentum again. Wait until buyers get their, regain their strength again before push right back up. So either we see some very fast bullish runs, right? And fill that gap as quickly as possible, or and fully maximize what energy they have left here. They have quite a bit of energy left here. Another full day of energy left here, right? Either they fully utilize that, or we get up here around 325, 326. We stall, we pull back, gather momentum again, and then try again, right? Go up, pull back a little bit, and then trying to fill that gap. And that all could happen tomorrow, Friday, and early next week. So I'll come back tomorrow. We'll reassess the situation. We'll go from there, right? You guys have a wonderful evening, and good luck trading tomorrow.